Last weekend, I went back to have another go at the South Coast Challenge.
Yeah, this has not been a fun run. I enjoyed this.
Let's see how that went. In September of 2022, I attempted my first ever 100k ultra and I failed due to injury. A year of training, and now with the experience of 7 ultras under my belt in the last 12 months, I decided to go back 1 year to the day for another shot. Up bright and early in our hotel room, starting the race day morning as I always do. Here we are, it is morning of the race, it's 5 AM, I'm up, I'm ready, plenty of coffee on the go, get ready to start heading towards that start line. Plenty of carbs and a clear out. I'm sure you know what that means, I don't have to describe any further and gross anyone out. I was ready to take on the day. The forecast was overcast, but due to warm up a little bit later that day, so okay, no problem, all good. At the starting line, I was feeling confident. I had no injuries, I was well fed, I was well rested, I was good to go. The first 25k was a doddle. It wasn't too hot, I held a good pace, around a 6:30 average by that point, and that was pretty comfortable. Everything was looking good.
32 kilometres in, just 10 to go, and I'm at my first marathon of the day. You know, it really does lead you to sort of ask questions. What am I doing in my life? When I have to say things like, I'm nearly at my first marathon of the day. Starting to get very hot now, very uncomfortable.
As I got a little further into the race, somewhere around the 30 to 40 kilometre point, I started to feel a bit of a pain coming on. It was in my right foot, and I became quickly aware that this had all the signs of a stress fracture.
65 kilometres in, 35 to go. Been quite an uncomfortable run so far. Done something to my foot around 40 kilometres, and not too sure what it is. I think it's possibly a stress fracture. Not entirely sure. It's not stopping me from running, but it's quite uncomfortable.
I continued on with the race. The temperature started to soar. Now, this wasn't something that I had trained for. I hadn't acclimatised to this. In the recent weeks in the UK, we'd had quite a cool summer. So this was out of the blue. We knew heat was coming, but not today.
Even worse than that, it's this heat. God, I formed up and there's barely a cloud in the sky. At the moment, it's in open fields. Been open fields for about an hour and a half, and there's no shelter. There's nothing to shelter from.
The weather was a bit of a game changer for everybody. We'd all gone out and suddenly we were enduring this blazing sun. As 60 to 70 kilometre mark came and passed, I must admit I was very ready to quit at every stop. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. My foot was a constant irritant. My levels of fatigue were building. I mean, by 80 kilometres and onwards, my foot really started to hit home. Almost each step felt as if whenever my foot hit the floor, someone was there with a tiny little rubber mallet, just giving a little tap. And an ever-building dull ache was coming in.
Up, not far from the 80 kilometre point. Absolutely exhausted. I'll be honest, been ready to give up on this a few times today. This has been a right tough battle. So ever since my sort of, injury on my foot came in, that brought me down a peg. Did ease up for a little while. Guess it's numbed a little, but it's still causing me quite a bit of pain. But what's worse is the fatigue from the heat. Absolutely exhausted, but we must march on.
What didn't help was the terrain from this point was very uneven. It was like a very flinty pathway, sort of very thin tread space, and you're trying to navigate fields and trails. The last 2 stations were 84 and 96 kilometres, and even this late on, this close to the end, people were still giving up. And believe me, I can understand why. In total, 177 people didn't make the finishing line that day. The heat had taken it out of everybody, and I get it. Everyone, including myself, I was completely spent.
That's it. Last few kilometres. So much pain. Had to strap my foot up best we can, and it's become extremely painful now. Running's, yeah, it's a lot of pain. Feel drained. Yeah, this has not been a fun run. Not enjoyed this.
Crossing the line in a very underwhelming 50-something place out of around 550 runners, I was disappointed. Now, whilst that sounds pretty reasonable, I had my heart set on getting in the top 20. But then I guess I need to appreciate what I have done. A year ago, I hadn't entered a single race. I didn't like to run whatsoever. And here I am running my 8th ultramarathon in a year from the green grass. A complete novice running half this race with a busted up foot as well. I mean, that's Goggins territory. I just need to go and get a 3-hour marathon next week, and then I'm on the right track, am I? If I were you guys, I'd start looking out for my book. It's going to be hitting absolutely no shelves anywhere near you anytime soon. So my first year of a runner is officially over, and I'm not sure what I'll do now. It's been a week since the race. My foot is still painful. They say it's a 4 to 6 week fix. Maybe I'll retire from running for the rest of the year. Go back to doing some normal gym stuff, a few fun challenges, take things down a peg. But there is a 200k race at the end of this month.